As an owner of many luxury and supercars over the years myself, I can attest, and many of you do too, about what it costs to buy a lot of these cars. It's not just the base price or sticker price, there's other factors and fees, depreciation, transportation to and from the dealership, and there's another one: taxes. That's right, the Montana loophole is a recent taxation grab or avoidance that a lot of would be buyers of supercars and premium luxury cars have been utilizing to stay away from paying large amounts of taxes in their respective states. Recently, as many as 14 people have been charged to the tune of over $20 million. Yes, I'm going to share the whole story, what's going on with the Montana loophole, how people are trying to avoid it, what they're doing, and how you yourself can avoid staying out of hot water. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
Recently, we've heard many influencers and car enthusiasts talk about this very issue, the loophole in Montana. We've also heard other enthusiasts talking about specifically dodging California due to the high taxation and the fact that many people find it hard to do business, hard to buy properties, and they're literally taxed to death. Recently, the California Attorney General, Rob Bonta, has now recently allegedly charged 14 individuals for tax evasion to the tune of in excess of $20 million regarding the purchase of their exotic and premium luxury cars, all involved in what they call the Montana loophole. State investigators are alleging that they've seen as many as 2,500 very suspicious purchases that may involve as many as 500 dealerships across northern, southern, central California, ranging from the Bay Area all the way down to Southern California, including Los Angeles proper. And many of these odd purchases seem to be directly related to the 7.25% that California will charge on most of these cars. So while 601 vehicles has allegedly been identified as fraudulent to this point, they recognize as well that there could be vastly amount more. And as well, the state suggests that they're losing over $10 million a year just in lost revenue due to taxations that are being avoided. And that many more, hundreds in fact, of owners could be involved in audits here coming up very, very soon. The latest is California allegedly is initiating a very aggressive crackdown on would-be buyers of these premium luxury cars, but utilizing shell companies outside of the state of California to avoid many of these taxations. Montana just happens to be one of those states that really doesn't have a broad spectrum of taxation. State taxes, pretty much null and void, and that's why it's a very attractive place for a lot of these buyers of these cars, these wealthy buyers, to go set up a shell company, a business that has an LLC that's very minimal, really just a minimal amount of liability, just to be able to set up a shell organization, to be able to register with Montana plates and avoid all that taxation when they buy their car. As of March 6th, the California Department of Tax and Free Administration, the CDTFA, and the DMV announced a major enforcement action against owners and dealers using Montana-based LLCs to register cars in the Golden State. And because Montana has no statewide tax, a lot of would-be buyers of these supercars find it very attractive. Now, it doesn't matter if you're buying a Honda Civic or even a base model 3 Series BMW, you're probably not subject to a significant amount of taxation. But as you move up the spectrum, certain vehicles, for example, like a Porsche 918 Spyder, where you're dealing with $2 million, you're dealing with the McLaren Elva, $1.8 million, or even a Ferrari F12 TDF, to the tune of $1.5 million. Do 7.25% on that? That is a large sum of money. But even smaller vehicles, Maseratis, premium BMWs, all of those vehicles that might only be $200,000, $300,000, you do 10% on top of $200,000, that's $20,000. So you can see where a lot of the motivation and incentive for a lot of these wealthy buyers of premium luxury and supercars are looking for other alternatives, trying to avoid that 7.25%. But recently, I was going across a forum and I stumbled across this one. He sells exotic cars up in the Seattle, Washington area. But he's been around a long time. He loves his McLarens and other supercars. And let's be honest, after hearing a lot of the back and forth banter, it seems like his sales are drastically down to the point where he's going to have to let staff go. What's going on there up in the Seattle area? Well, some of it, many people argued that it's the economy. There's other issues. People have other worries about unemployment and a lot of the tech sector is impacted. But there's a reality that a lot of people aren't talking about. It's the high taxation. And there's a belief by an exotic car company owner that this big 8% tax that they are applying in the Washington area has a major impact on their personal business, their business in general, and the ability to decide whether they should stay in business or move out of state. See, because what's started to happen, a lot of these companies now, a lot of these sales, and even a lot of buyers, the wealth are moving out of some of these places. They're leaving places like Seattle, Los Angeles, moving to other states that maybe are a little tax friendly. And so what we're seeing is a lot of this heavy taxation isn't just having an impact. Sure, the short term is suggested to have an impact and provide money for schools, hospitals, roads, and those are absolutely all wonderful. The unfortunate part is those that have these businesses, run the businesses, small shops, may employ 5, 10, 15, 20 people, quite often are making decisions just to lift up, remove their roots, and move on. Because a lot of these purchases, even though many argue and say, well, if they've got a $500,000 to spend on a car, what's another $50,000? That could be the difference between buying and not buying. And the choice seems to be a lot less people are buying. But in the case of what's going on in the Montana loophole, up to this point of the March 6th, 2026, many people are just deciding, you know what, I'm going to buy it, but I'm going to find a way around that. That's what a lot of people are alleging. But the way it happens, now the DMV and other resources have finally caught up. Now, to beat all this down, the CDTFA has come up with some solutions. They've launched a variety of audits, as well as issued warnings to dealers that are involved in this type of behavior, and also reminding them of their liability involved in this for missing shipping documentation. All at the same time, the DMV now is also pursued dozens of criminal charges to recover millions of unpaid taxation. Now, under the state law, Californians must pay California state tax unless a vehicle is kept out of state for at least 12 months. So those found circumventing these rules face a variety of fees: back taxes, registration fees, and steep financial penalties, reaching as high as 50% of that purchase price of that vehicle. And while a lot of this seems to be going on across the nation, it feels like there's a very concentrated area in Southern California. Many of these areas include Beverly Hills with 416, Costa Mesa 359, Van Nuys 273, San Diego, Murrieta, Irvine, Santa Monica, Newport Beach, Mill Valley, and Carlsbad, way down by the San Diego area. Clearly, the whole Southern California area has a very concentrated group of people that have the money to buy the cars and, of course, enjoy these beautiful supercars and luxury cars in the sunny weather. But that's all coming to a close. And regulators like the DMV and beyond are also saying, basically, that's taking money out of the pockets, building roads and fixing schools and doing all of those great things. But as a result, they promise to apply as much as 50% of that purchase price in form of a tax applied to that would-be owner. And according to the DMV director, Steve Gordon, since 2023, the DMV has launched over 80 investigations and recovered more than $2.3 million and will continue doing this work, ensuring that Californians who purchase and operate their cars in California comply with state laws. I'd love to free all of you to drop a line, but a lot of you are enthusiasts. You're car lovers. You love your exotics. You love your luxury cars. The thought of paying extra taxes above and beyond. How does that resonate? I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. Now, as a resident of Canada myself, I can definitely relate. Just prior to buying a new car, I was all of a sudden hit with a new federal change, 10% tax across the board. Everything above $100,000 was going to be impacted by this 10% addition of taxation called the luxury tax. Now, initially, that also included boats and planes, as well as supercars, premium vehicles. On top of it, certain provinces are paying as much as 14, 15, 16% provincial sales tax. Plus, they have an included GST of 5% and a 10% tax. There are provinces in this Canada that are paying as much as 25, 35% taxation and even more in some cases. I've talked to many different owners and vendors of a lot of these supercar brands, and knew that the writing was on the wall. Many of them have saw their businesses shut down or almost on the verge, barely hanging on by a thread, because it is literally shutting down business. People can't afford to buy it. Yeah, a $400,000 or $500,000 car. Boo hoo, I know. But at the end of the day, that person that was going to buy that probably is a doctor, a lawyer, and they probably employ some people maybe you know or friends of family. And so that's just taking money out of their pocket where they can employ one or two or three people. Instead, yes, they're not buying their car. And we're hearing lots of stories where people are making a decision because of taxation to not buy a car at all. I mean, in the luxury car space, we appreciate having something fun and unique, but it sucks really, really bad when people are penalized for their passion. I guess here's the question. I'd like to hear your thoughts, what your overall take is on this situation, and the fact that these people are getting penalized, of course, getting hit with big taxes, fines, both legally and civilly. This is not a good look, and certainly a lot of people are going to feel the pain. Be sure to check out those videos. You're going to love them. They're really going to resonate for you. They really touched me close. And again, as always, have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you real soon, everyone. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.